All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thanks for joining this instance of the Antrea community meeting. Today is Wednesday, June the 22nd, or as usual, if you are in the United States, it's still Tuesday. For this instance, we moved the meeting by 24 hours as it was a public holiday in the United States yesterday. So we don't have any pre-scheduled meeting in today's agenda. So today it's going to be purely open discussion. I don't know if any team member has any topic regarding features, bugs, or anything else that they would like to bring up. If you have any topic to discuss for today, please go ahead. Waiting a few more seconds. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to mention one thing. In recent releases, I saw that some issues are related to interaction of features, for example, egress and Antrea proxy. And perhaps there are some other conflicts between other features. So I'm thinking about refactoring the current end-to-end test on kind platforms so that we can test all feature we can have a test with all features enabled and also have a test with all features disabled and verify that the core functions will not be broken with or without this feature enabled. And currently I'm working on a PR and you can also reduce some redundancy. Maybe let me share my screen. So previously we have three specific tests. One with Antrea proxy disabled, and one with Antrea proxy and proxy all enabled, and the last one with network policy, Antrea network policy disabled. So and for other test features like service external IP, we use another approach. We just test this feature in every builds, but the test will mutate the configuration, and then this test will be tested in all. This test case will test in all builds, and also traffic control is tested in this way. So there are two styles. One is create a new build and specific for this test, but this will will produce some redundancy because many cases that are not related to this feature are tested repeatedly. So I'm proposing to have a new build to replace this one with all features enabled and also with all features disabled. So, and we don't mutate configuration in end-to-end test, and just be adaptive. So when the feature itself is enabled, we test the feature, and when it is disabled, we skip it. So this features like service external IP and traffic control, which are not enabled by default, will be tested in this one. And also, if they have been graduated to beta, they will also be tested in the original core build. This without any update to the future gate configuration. So, and for every feature, we will have tested at least once in this build when to see when they are disabled, the other functions will not be impacted. So that was that's the thing I want to mention in this meeting. So for in the future and for features like need some specific environment configuration, for example, multicast, I'm thinking that maybe it should also be tested in this build. I see features like multicast just need one extra physical interface, and this can also be done by updating the canned test bed setup in script to just by just adding one step to attaching another virtual interface to all canned nodes, so we can reduce we will have less dependencies on Jenkins testbed and maintain separate testbeds for each feature. And that's all. And if anyone has any opinions and suggestions, feel free to comment on this PR or share it here.
Generally speaking, I believe that your idea makes a lot of sense. And I wonder if our reason for having end-to-end tests without proxy and with the proxy is just historical, or whether there is also some other reason for for the old way, for the current way of doing testing. It's probably just historical and goes back to the time where Antrea proxy was in alpha state.
Yeah, I remember this test was with proxy enabled, and when the feature graduated to beta, it is enabled by default. So this test was changed to test when it was disabled.
I see.
So,
yeah, then I have another question on this. Can you go to service external iptest.go? Because usually the current code is enabling the feature gate on demand, let's say, for running this test. But do we also disable it when the test completes, or do we keep it enabled for the rest of the test?
Yeah, that's one problem. I don't think it rewards the configuration.
Okay, so basically we are running tests with a sort of dynamic configuration that the configuration at the end of the test is not the same at the beginning of the one at the beginning of the test. Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah. That may lead to many unexpected behavior. If we run the test in different order, or we choose to run specific test and skip others. Yeah. The side effect. There are many side effects by each test. So I think currently we don't mutate configuration about feature gates at all, so to avoid this.
That's right. So I mean, I think that this is surely a good improvement. The only thing that I will check if that if there is any condition that when testing with all the feature gates enabled would lead to some tests being always skipped. For instance, I'm looking at, for example, let's look at this code. It will be skipped if Antrea IPAM test. So this means that if also the Antrea IPAM feature is enabled, then this test will always be skipped. Is that what it means or not?
This is a little different. This it uses this name, but it actually checks another flag because this is a history issue. Antrea IPAM means the flexible IPAM test. It will only be set when the test is run on a specific test bed with flexible IPAM configuration. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So even if Antrea IPAM feature itself is enabled, this will be false. It will not be skipped. I think this will only be skipped when another configuration is enabled. Yeah. And that configuration will only be set for flexible IPAM.
Okay, thanks, Chan. I don't have any other question. Are there other questions regarding the proposed the work that Chan is proposing here? All right, so it seems that at least let's go by the latest. If we go by the latest consensus approach, everyone is okay with your proposal, Chan. So no, at least no one is complaining about it, which is great. So thanks a lot for bringing this up. Anything else from the team for today? All right, so let's go just with the announcements. As we know, last week we released the Antrea 1.7. You can check the changelog and the release notes for all the new features that have been included. And I just wanted to mention that now we have this is the first release from the TEIA repository, which provides all the network flow visibility features which are provided with Antrea. We have provided fairly simple installation instructions. It's however worth noting that for existing users, we have kept the network flow visibility also in the Antrea repository, so you can consume them. You can consume network flow visibility also from the Antrea repository, but that will be the same feature set as Antrea 1.6. For all the new features that we've added in this release cycle, they're only available from the TEIA repository. And network flow visibility features will be removed from the Antrea repository during the Antrea 1.8 release cycle. And from that point on, they will be exclusively consumed from the TEIA repository. And that's pretty much all. Yeah, then you can share. I don't want to bother you with the new features that have been added, because those are things that anyone can read from the release announcements and the changelog. Yeah, I don't know. Are there other announcements? Anything else that you would like to bring up? Complaints? Yeah, go ahead.
So for that, I think we talk about probably we want to have a proposal for multi-cluster support. I think one idea we discussed internally before is like probably we don't really do recommending across clusters, but I think we talk about any way to visualize the flows. I mean, have this dashboard that can show the flows in multiple clusters. And then maybe somewhere, even we don't do, even we don't run a central analytics solution, but some way to call the individual cluster to do project recommendation for a single cluster.
It's not easy, and the problem with this approach is that we will need to have the Grafana dashboard connect to have a sort of selector of the cluster it wants to connect to, because the idea basically is there is no real let's say that the Antrea flow visibility or TEIA doesn't have any explicit knowledge of multi-clusters, so there's no central data storage for flows belonging to multiple clusters, but each cluster has its own database storing flow data. Then from the leader cluster, you have a Grafana instance that can connect to any cluster. So we will need to have a sort of data source selector that allows you to select the cluster that you want to visualize, and then the dashboard is populated with data from the selected cluster. Then, for instance, then you switch to another cluster, and then you have the same dashboard, which is instead populated with data from another cluster.
Yeah.
I think that's the requirement that you're expressing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't think through, but I think what you said makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that to the best of my knowledge, I do not know if these can be implemented in Grafana without having to reconfigure the Grafana pod itself. This is something that perhaps we can check with the team working on flow visibility to understand whether this can be done or not.
Sure. Yeah, I don't mean we need to design here. I just want to check what's your thoughts here. Yeah, definitely. Probably we can have the team to spend some time to investigate different options here. And I heard from you, either we have a Grafana to, pull information from different from data stores in different clusters, or maybe we can also consider to run ClickHouse in a central cluster. Yeah, I think originally probably we said we want to keep the data store and the recommendation in single cluster.
Yeah, originally, that's exactly what we wanted to have. We wanted to have the data stored in a single cluster. The thing is that keeping the data stored in a single cluster will surely it has some scale concerns, because now we will have multiple flow aggregators writing in the same ClickHouse instance. Then we will surely need some database schema changes to take into account the fact that every flow also has a cluster identity. So that's something else that we need to add to the data schema. I mean, that will be probably relatively easy, but the main concern is about the scale implications of having a number of clusters writing in the database.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, let's find out if we can have a solution where we can see data on, let's say, cluster by cluster by switching, by pointing Grafana to a different ClickHouse server. Otherwise, if that's not feasible, then we'll have to revert about thinking a solution about having a single database for all the clusters. Cool. And anything else? All right. And so I guess this can be probably a short meeting for today. And I would like to thank you for joining this call. And we will have our next meeting on Wednesday, July the 6th, not Tuesday, July the 5th as usual, because again, Monday, July the 4th is a public holiday in the United States. So even the next meeting will be on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. And in the next meeting, we will most likely present about multi-cluster network policies. So there will be an interesting presentation to hear. And I guess that's all for today. So I wish everyone a good afternoon, a good morning, or a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.